Another year later, Assad's forces killed 1,400 near Damascus using sarin gas. Obama decided to walk back from his threat and pursue diplomacy with Assad's ally, Russia. That diplomacy has turned to disgust. The idea that you would target a playground and bomb kids, hoping that you would then convince people to give up because you killed their kids? What kind of a sick mind comes up with a strategy like that? And what kind of civilized country is going to support those tactics? But that's what Russia has done. And now questions of whether the administration should have engaged further in Syria, beyond airstrikes against ISIS.
There's never been a recognition that civilian population protection is at the heart of avoiding and fighting extremism. Our failure to protect the civilian population is, I think, the biggest policy failure we did.
As President Obama's term concludes, Syria will be a question for the Trump administration, as it will now decide whether and how to engage Russia and continue U.S. involvement in Syria. Brett?
Rich Edson in the White House briefing room. Rich, thank you. The Marine Corps is grounding its fleet of MV-22 Osprey aircraft in Japan following a crash off the coast of Japan earlier this week. It happened while the tilt rotor plane was conducting a nighttime mid-air refueling operation. The 5 crew members aboard the plane were all rescued. It is the 8th crash incident involving Marine aircraft this year. A new theory tonight on how Russian hackers allegedly got into the Hillary Clinton campaign email system. The Daily Mail reports a typo in an email from one of Clinton's top aides may have been responsible for opening a digital door. Meantime, the House Intelligence Committee abruptly canceled Thursday's briefing on the alleged Russian election hacks. Fox News is told that the intel agencies, the CIA, FBI, NSA, ODNI, all refused to provide briefers, which is unusual given that this is the most senior committee with jurisdiction. The Russian scandal has put the spotlight on our country's aging IT infrastructure, and not just the equipment. You might be shocked to learn just how many of the men and women charged with keeping our government's computers safe and effective are among the country's oldest workers. Correspondent Peter Ducey tells us more tonight.
During the presidential campaign season, there was a lot of talk about who should have his or her finger on the button that controls the nation's nuclear arsenal. Well, it turns out that nuclear arsenal is partly coordinated using an 8-inch floppy disk.
Where do you buy a floppy disk? I mean, I can't imagine what the price is now. And so that's the big threat, is this slow, grinding, lower quality, higher cost set of services.
The cost of caring for such ancient equipment is now so high, the feds don't have much money left over for anything else. Among the biggest spenders on IT, according to the Partnership for Public Service and Accenture, HHS at $13 billion a year, DHS at more than $6 billion a year, and the VA at nearly $4.5 billion a year.
The federal government spends almost $90 billion a year on information technology, and almost 80% of that is spent on operations and maintenance, servicing systems that may be over 50 years old.
The workforce is aging too. There are now more federal IT employees over 60 than there are under 30. At HUD, 23% of IT workers are over 60. At the National Science Foundation, 18%. And at Labor, 17%, which could become a problem whenever they decide to leave.
There are a lot of folks that are retirement eligible that will be leaving in the near term. The real question is, are we going to be able to attract the best talent to come in to fill those places, and bluntly to do things differently than we've been doing in the past.
And cost isn't the only concern as the government brainstorms ways to convince top tech talent to work for them. Experts warn the nation's cyber infrastructure remains exposed to hackers.
We don't have enough cybersecurity experts in this country. We need about 30,000 to thwart the worst kind of attack in this country. We've only got about 1,000.
Experts are waiting to see how the next president addresses the aging IT infrastructure, but private sector companies don't have to wait for anything, like IBM, whose CEO says the company is trying to adjust to changes in tech by hiring thousands of what she calls new-collar workers who don't necessarily even need college degrees. Brett?
Peter, thank you. Up next, why some people are worried a President Donald Trump has interesting communication plans. First, here's what some of our Fox News affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox Carolina and Greenville, as lawyers for the man accused of killing 9 black parishioners at a South Carolina church rest their case without calling any witnesses. Earlier, a judge ruled they could not present evidence about Dylann Roof's mental health. arguments are planned for tomorrow. Fox 8 in High Point, North Carolina, with the firing of a Wake Forest University football announcer accused of giving sensitive information to the team's opponents. Tommy Elrod is a former player for the school and was also a coach for 11 seasons. He was not retained when the current coach took over. And this is a live look at San Francisco from our affiliate Fox 2. One of the big stories there tonight, Uber put some of its self-driving cars into service there. It's an expansion of the pilot program that started in Pittsburgh in September. An Uber employee is still behind the wheel to take over in case there's a problem here. Customers can opt out if they prefer a human driver. Would you? That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.
Wasn't sleeping well, my neck would be stiff.
I had like memory foam, I had other pillows, and I'd always wake up with neck pain, and I had constant headaches. After sleeping with my pillow, I didn't wake up with a headache, I was more aligned, everything felt good.
I didn't realize that connection between the pillow and sleep. When I switched to my pillow, I got a better night's sleep, and I loved it.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. My patented pill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it holds that support all night long to take the pressure off your shoulders and keep your neck aligned regardless of your sleeping position, so you get the best night's sleep of your life.
MyPillow is the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation. Call or go to MyPillow.com now to order your MyPillow. Use the promo code on your screen and you'll get a second pillow absolutely free. Other pillows go flat, causing you to fold them over or use your arm for support, which can cause pain. Hard foam pillows can raise your head too high and heat up during the night, making you very uncomfortable. But the revolutionary MyPillow has patented fill that won't go flat and keeps your neck supported and aligned to your exact individual needs. MyPillow helps you get and stay in deep sleep all night long. And how about this? MyPillow is machine washable and dryable and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and an amazing 10-year warranty. Plus, every MyPillow is made in the USA.
I like the fact that it's made in the USA. I like the fact that it works.
I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. Go to MyPillow.com or call now to order one of my pillows. When you do, I'll give you a second one absolutely free.
Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. MyPillow comes with an unprecedented 60-day money-back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose. Don't delay. Buy one and get one absolutely free. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world is MyPillow.com.
Tomorrow, things got heated between Cavuto and Pelosi.
Elections didn't make the way she was.
Now, how will Rome react on your world?
Nailed it, brother. You deserve all the best unlimited internet.
I do.
Yes, you do. Remember how you wore those cool shoes and someone said, hey, cool shoes?
Yeah.
You deserve to upload and download things fast for that. Then there was that time you said the answer, and people said, right, student.
Yeah, sounds like me.
You deserve fast internet for that, too. Also, you're your parents' favorite child.
I'm my favorite child.
Apparently not.
Come on. Back home.
So, Lab with It Ain't Rocket Science, the program that gives you quick reports about all things science, technology, engineering, and math from around the country. We'll take you to museums and robotics competitions. Meet influential people in science and technology. Parents and kids alike get introduced to some great opportunities, events, and careers. It Ain't Rocket Science. Find this program on your local on-demand channel in the Travel and Lifestyle section under Not Rocket Science.
Tonight we continue our series on the first 100 days of the Donald Trump presidency with one of his signature campaign rallying points. Early and often, the Republican nominee took aim at President Obama's legacy nuclear deal with Iran. But Trump also hinted he would not just tear up that deal. So now the question is, what will the new president do about the nuclear deal, and is there room for a detente with Iran beyond the deal? Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen reports.
Born in Iran, an accomplished lecturer and the author of 3 books in Farsi, now an American citizen practicing law in the States, Ali Reza Alan Parsa sees some prospects under the next president for improved relations between Washington and his ancestral Persian homeland.
If nothing else, Mr. Trump, he does represent
American pragmatism. He will cut deals. He will sit down with, friend and foe, and try to come up with the best deals.
In the years since the Iranian regime brutally suppressed the street protests of June 2009, the United States, joined by 5 other world powers, negotiated and implemented a landmark deal curbing the regime's vast nuclear program while providing it with tens of billions in sanctions relief, including huge infusions of cash into access to U.S. dollar transactions. At the same time, Iran's military has harassed American warships in the Persian Gulf, detained U.S. sailors at gunpoint, ramped up ballistic missile testing, intervened militarily to prop up the Assad regime in Syria, continued funding Hamas and Hezbollah, and reaffirmed undying hostility to the nation it still calls the Great Satan. Most analysts believe that in his first 100 days in office, the next president will make some swift demonstration of his commitment to changing the U.S.-Iranian relationship. The nuclear accord, now at the heart of that relationship, having never been ratified by Congress, is at once the easiest thing to change and the most far-reaching. And as a candidate, Donald Trump criticized it bitterly.
This is one of the worst deals ever made by any country in history. The deal with Iran will lead to nuclear problems. All they have to do is sit back 10 years, and they don't have to do much, and they're going to end up getting nuclear.
But he has also signaled he doesn't intend to just walk away from the deal.
It's very tough to do when you say rip up a deal, because I'm a deal person, but I will police that deal. I've taken over some bad contracts. I would police that contract so tough that they don't have a chance. As bad as the contract is, I will be so tough on that contract.
The Secretary of State who negotiated the Iran deal hinted to reporters in Brussels last week that President Obama, in attempting to persuade his successor not to scrap the deal, made some headway.
And that there was a sense in that conversation, without violating any of it, that there were aspects of it that are constructive and positive and worthwhile and maybe should be held on to.
Iran's president has warned Tehran will not allow Mr. Trump to weaken or abandon the deal. The State Department was forced to acknowledge Iran has no such power.
Of course, no one else can prevent any other party to this agreement from walking away. The counter-argument to that is, why would anyone walk away? Because it's effective.
Outside of the nuclear deal, it is the raging civil war and humanitarian catastrophe in Syria that may offer the next president his clearest avenue for cooperation with Iran. After all, the Iranian military is coordinating closely with Russia in Syria, and the president-elect has vowed to work with the Kremlin to resolve that conflict. And Alan Parsa, for one, believes Mr. Trump may recognize a bit of himself in his adversaries in Tehran.
Because Iranians have shown themselves to be rather pragmatic in many areas, and as Mr. Trump himself has said, they're good deal makers too.
Even if he intends to quiet things down between the U.S. and Iran, Mr. Trump will soon find his hand forced by events. Members of Congress have proposed close to 36 sanctions bills, and the new president will have to issue fresh waivers for the nuclear deal to continue, Brett, if, of course, Mr. Trump is of a mind to keep it.
Could get sticky, James. Thank you. Our 15-part series looking ahead to the first 100 days of the Trump presidency continues tomorrow with the president-elect's plans for tax cuts and simplification of the tax code. If you miss any of the reports, you can check them all out on foxnews.com/special report. President-elect Trump's critics have something new to worry about tonight. It involves the federal government's decades-old effort to spread American democracy to other nations through the media. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, is here tonight with some big changes for agencies such as The Voice of America. Good evening, Howard. What's this?
Get that macaroni and cheese.
What
macaroni?
That Trump will take
That
over
you
an
had
office
like
that
that.
could turn into
There's
an
another
unfettered
cup.
propaganda arm, a kind of Trump TV that could put only Trump.
There's another cup.
That's noodles. That's not macaroni.
Yeah, I thought, well, that is.
No, that's the potato. Potato.
Propagandist to control how the U.S. is presented to the rest of the world. Now, we're talking here about naming a single chief executive to oversee the VOA, Radio Free Europe, and other government communications agencies that currently are battling such forces as ISIS propaganda and Russian cyber hacking.
But what's new about that? I mean, haven't they been around for decades?
Yes, indeed. But a new law is eliminating the Broadcasting Board of Governors, an agency that's been widely criticized as ineffective in managing these communications agencies, and replacing it with a single CEO. Now, that change was supported by President Obama's administration, President's chairman at the Board of Governors, the top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, among others.
The Senate, by the way, could approve or reject anybody that Trump nominated. I spoke to the committee chairman, Ed Royce, and I asked him about the furor.
I think that's hysteria. As a matter of fact, there's very clear laws in place here in this legislation which put in a firewall in terms of journalistic independence. So, in fact, what's driving this is opposition from the bureaucracy itself.
Meanwhile, Brett, Hillary Clinton herself, as Secretary of State, testified that the Broadcasting Board of Governors was practically defunct, her words, in terms of being able to sell a message to the world. Now, Congressman Royce introduced this legislation last year with bipartisan support, virtually no news coverage. Only since Trump's election have the news organizations seized on it, suggesting possibly a double standard.
There you go, Howie. Thank you. The election of Donald Trump has many in the United Nations worried about big changes in the U.S. attitude toward that organization. President-elect Trump has made no secret of his disdain for the UN, and the global group has just sworn in a new Secretary General who is promising what he calls management reform. Senior correspondent Eric Shawn looks at that situation tonight.
The United Nations is not a friend of democracy. It's not a friend to freedom. It's not a friend even to the United States of America.
Donald Trump, clearly no fan of the United Nations. The president-elect's views are at odds with the world body on a variety of pressing issues, from its support of the Iran nuclear deal, climate change initiatives, and resettling refugees.
The overwhelming feeling among most members was that Barack Obama was their kind of U.S. president, so I think it will be a different reception. But I think the whole point of the idea of making America great again is to reassert ourselves, especially in bodies like the United Nations.
Former UN Ambassador John Bolton, who served Republican President George W. Bush and has talked to Mr. Trump about joining the administration, predicts the president-elect will take a hard stance at the UN. He says the almost $3 billion American taxpayers paid this year alone, the most of any nation, could be cut.
I think a good hard look at the UN budget is long overdue, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if a President Trump, once in office, does pay particular attention to it. It's total insanity.
That was the undiplomatic opinion of Mr. Trump a decade ago, when we sat down to discuss the UN headquarters' multi-billion-dollar renovation. He testified about it to Congress and accused the UN of overspending.
It is either the most corrupt thing going on in the world, which is saying something, or it's one of the most incompetent things I've ever seen.
Mr. Trump has tapped Republican South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley as his choice for UN ambassador.
I think there's a lot of day-to-day issues that she doesn't know about, right? And the problem is that Nikki Haley's going to face is that many of the other countries' delegates are people who've been there for a very long time. Like her counterpart from Russia has been there for 10 years.
A possible preview of what Governor Haley could face came in a September speech by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. He compared the rhetoric of Mr. Trump and others that he called, quote, populists, demagogues, and clever cheats to the propaganda of ISIS. Brett?
Eric, thank you. Some breaking news now. The House Intelligence Committee chairman is not happy at all that the intelligence agencies have refused to provide anybody for that committee hearing on alleged Russian hacking. Devin Nunes releasing a statement, the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. It is unacceptable that the Intelligence Committee directors would not fulfill the House Intelligence Committee's request to be briefed tomorrow on the cyber attacks that occurred during the presidential campaign. The legislative branch is constitutionally vested with oversight responsibility of executive branch agencies which are obligated to comply with our requests. Continuing, the committee is deeply concerned that intransigence in sharing intelligence with Congress can enable the manipulation of intelligence for political purposes. We will talk about more of this with the panel in just a moment. Many of you are hopeful and optimistic. Some of you are scared. We will talk about all of the Fox News polls as well, since Donald Trump won the election, and that breaking news about the intelligence agencies giving a stiff arm to the House Intelligence Committee. The panel joins me after a break.
Hey, GoDaddy, our goal is to make you look awesome online. Let's try it in football terms. This is the goal post! The end zone, the goal of every team. We know you have goals, like getting exposure for your idea or business. With GoDaddy Website Builder, you can easily create an awesome, mobile-friendly, get you more exposure website.